Let's go back to our conversation around local government, the fragility of these coalitions. Dr. Thina Nzo rejoining us from the Public Affairs Research Institute. Dr. Nzo, we've spoken about what happens when power changes hands, but when a coalition becomes very fragile and someone tries to cling to power, they make agreements with people, there's patronage, what does that do to governance?
Well, Stephen, like I was saying, that it's so sad that we find ourselves back to the same situation a couple of years ago, where our smaller parties and the smaller governing parties in the different councils have actually broken their promises to us as the electorate when they told us that this time around they are going to put the interest of the citizens at the forefront of their governance in coalitions and councils. But what we have realized is that, unfortunately, there is so much fragility in our political system in South Africa, where coalition governments do not find any mere means of political stability. And one thing that they don't realize is that they don't just only put the internal governance system at risk, but, for example, in the city of Johannesburg, that is actually financially also struggling as a city that is supposed to be attracting investments, it also puts that city at risk, where you are certainly having to look at the ways in which the city can attract more investments, even in particularly with the whole movement of the renewable energy, where we need serious investors to come into the city, into the country. So it really damages the image not only of South Africa, but also a city that is a leading city in the African continent.
I suppose an example of what happens if you have too much chaos for too long, there's a cumulative effect to it, is the fact that the Nooit Gedacht water scheme in Nelson Mandela Bay was never properly implemented. As a result, now 40% of the city could run out of water because the correct political decisions, the correct governance decisions, weren't made 5 years ago.
Absolutely, Stephen. I mean, like I was saying, you put the internal governance structures at risk, because if you continuously to be having your squabbles and also trying to put what we call horse trading for political positions and power, you're not only just looking after your own individualistic interests, but at the same time, you are overlooking some of the roles and responsibilities that political office bearers have to carry out. For example, an executive mayor has got insurmountable powers, especially powers in budget allocation and executive oversight. But then if you have a certain function that is not receiving the necessary attention from the respective political office bearer, including the MMC who's supposed to oversee infrastructure and water and sanitation services, it means that communities will continue to struggle because there is this fixation of wanting to squabble for power, to squabble for positions, then that ends up putting the city at a higher risk, like we have seen at the city of Nelson Mandela Bay.
The one way to get around all of this is we have three big parties in South Africa, really, for the moment. We have the ANC, the DA, and the EFF. Any two of them, if they involve the ANC, would probably be able to form some sort of durable coalition. So if, for example, the EFF makes good on what appears to be Julius Malema's interest in trying to form a coalition with the ANC, would that work, or would that lead to other tensions in different ways?
Well, as we know, Stephen, the EFF is a flip-flopper. They do not stick to their decisions. I mean, first and foremost, the EFF at the beginning, of this new local government, they had sworn that they would actually not vote, in favor of the ANC, anything but the ANC. But now we are seeing the EFF coming back to say that they are now reconsidering to work with the ANC in the city of Johannesburg and most probably at Ekurhuleni. So you question yourself in terms of how sustainable, are these coalitions and what kind of principles do they stick to? And one thing that even makes me even worry even further because of all this fragility, there's a whole lot of rhetoric going around where smaller parties are saying, no, we are acting on behalf of our constituencies and the electorate. There is no way that they can prove to us that before they make these decisions, they actually go out to the public and make announcements in order to understand what the electorate, what the communities, what their constituencies think in terms of them taking certain decisions to go in bed with other political parties.
Dr. Thina Nzo, really appreciate the time. Thank you very much indeed from the Public Affairs Research Institute.